Hi everyone, and welcome to this next section of government class. We're dealing with the legislative branch. Now, one of the things I want you to understand as we move through the rest of this time that you have in Government 1 class, we're going to be talking about each of the sections of the Constitution of the United States. So one of the things that we're going to skip over here for the summertime is we're going to not look at the Articles of Confederation, and we're going to go right into the Constitution itself. Now, one of the things you got to keep in mind is that there are the first three articles of the Constitution are basically what sets up our government. And so right now what we're going to look at this week is Article 1 of the Constitution, and that is the legislative branch. Now, if you remember from stuff from last week, that comes down to government is responsible for three primary things, and the first primary thing is to legislate or to make law. Now, one of the things that you probably have come to understand from the first section that you looked at last week is that our founding fathers were dedicated to this concept of popular sovereignty, which is that basically the people are the root of all government power. Government gets its power and stays in power basically by consent of the people. Now, when framing our Constitution, our government, the Founding Fathers wanted to make sure that this was very clear, this idea of popular sovereignty. And so they basically broke the legislative branch into two parts so it wouldn't become too powerful. And they had to come up with all kinds of different ways. Plus, they also wanted to make sure that you take care of the little states, or when I say little states, I mean states that don't have a lot of population, compared to the big states, and that's the states with lots of population. Now, if we were in class, one of the things I'd talk to you about is what's more important, the rights of the individual or the rights of the many. More often than not, in class, people say, hey, it's majority rule. And most of the time, I would agree with that. But you guys can probably relate to many times within your own life where, hey, sometimes the individual has to be looked out for too. That's what our legislative branch does. It's broken into two things. So the little people, or no, I shouldn't say the little people, but that the smaller states with less population have as much say in government as states with large population. So one of the first things that we're going to look at this week is we're going to look at the first branch, or the first house of the legislative branch, and that is the House of Representatives. Now, the House of Representatives is very important because that is the house of the people. They represent the people in the House of Representatives in our legislative branch, also known as Congress in the federal government. Now, the idea behind this is we want to make sure that government understands that the people have a say. So all law, no matter what, has to start in the House of Representatives. Now, law can get an idea in the Senate, but it has to pass the House of Representatives first. So basically, all law starts in the House of Representatives, the people's house. And the House of Representatives represents the people. That's the first thing you have to understand. Now, the next thing you have to understand is that the House of Representatives is the house that the people have the most control over. So the house that you and I, as citizens, we have the most control over the House of Representatives. Now, we do that because the House of Representatives only have 2-year terms. So basically, they're up for re-election every 2 years. Now, that's a big deal because if we're going to make change in our government, it has to be done through the ballot box or voting. Okay, so representatives only get 2-year terms. Now, one of the things that you need to keep in mind then is it comes down to us, the people, to make sure that we keep an eye on what's going on in the House of Representatives. So the two things that are most important I want you to keep in mind is, remember, well, three things actually. First off, number one, understand that the House of Representatives represents us, the people. The second thing you need to understand is all law has to start in the House of Representatives. The third thing you need to make sure that you understand, because of their terms, their short terms, the representatives in the House of Representatives have to be most responsive to us, the people. So there you go. There's your first day of this section of the legislative branch. Tomorrow I'm going to talk more about the Senate. Make sure you finish up your assignments day to day and make sure everything's all ready to go by the end of the week. We'll talk to you soon.